Hi, I'm Slavik with IDrinkCoffee.com. And with me today, I have Elise Stewart, who's one of my colleagues at IDrinkCoffee. So welcome to your first video, Elise.
Thank you.
In addition to working in our sales department, Elise also helps with quality control of our coffee roasting and also developing roast profiles. Tell us what you've prepared for us today.
So what we've got here today is coffee that I've stored by my desk for the past year. And what we're hoping to be able to showcase with this is what happens as coffee continues to get older, how this is going to affect your espresso extractions.
That's really interesting, and it's a question that we're frequently asked. A lot of times customers will contact our sales or our technical department and say that they're not getting the crema that they want, or the crema's not, to their expectations. And oftentimes they'll blame it on the machine, when we know, and we hope to show in this video, that usually the culprit is, in fact, the coffee. Coffee, as it ages, oxidizes and it gets drier, and that has a significant impact on your espresso extraction. We're going to try to keep this as scientific as possible. We have 8 different roasts of coffee, and the only thing different about these coffees is when they were roasted. It's all the same coffee from a farm that we've been dealing with for a long time, Terra Farms in Brazil. They were all roasted on the same roaster, our Loring Falcon 35 kilogram roaster. The roast profile is the same. The only thing different, of course, is there will be some differences in batches, and again, the day they were roasted.
Our baseline or our control with this is going to be the 2 weeks. We find that it has had the opportunity to off-gas enough that it's going to be nice and consistent for your experience, but still fresh enough that you're getting all the amazing flavors going on within there. We do understand, because we roast so often here, that sometimes you do just round out a coffee a little bit earlier, and usually a week is kind of the bare minimum we recommend off-gassing.
Especially with espresso, because other brew methods, although they do have probably a peak off-gassing time, I find that with espresso it's particularly important, because if the coffee is too fresh, too gassy, and we'll see that, I hope, when we extract our fresh coffee, you see kind of bubbles in your crema, and I find that the flavor is not as nuanced, it's dulled. And these coffees in front of me are from 1 day ago, that was roasted yesterday. This one here is from a week ago, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year. So we've been collecting these coffees for a long time. The 2 week will be our baseline. We're gonna pull that shot. We're both going to taste it. And then we'll go and try each one of these different times, and we'll tell you what we think. So the way we've designed this experiment is we're grinding 18 grams of coffee. We're using a Whitebird KC 200 espresso scale. So we have 18 grams going into the basket, and we're gonna aim for a 2-to-1 ratio coming out, so 36 grams of liquid. I have my Profitec Pro 700 here set at 90 degrees Celsius, which I find is a good temperature for this particular coffee, but we're gonna keep all of those variables the same for every single extraction. And again, this is our 2-week-old coffee. I'm gonna begin extracting it. So that was about a 34-second extraction. Let's give this a try. This coffee is very familiar to me. I mean, we've been roasting espresso yellow for 14 years since we've opened. So it has the very traditional taste. I get a nutty flavor, a really nice, sweet and balanced acidity.
I definitely get a bit of the jammy notes kind of going on within there as well. Definitely getting a really nice kind of chocolate undertone with that.
This is exactly how this coffee is meant to be. 2 weeks after roasting, I think, is really the ideal. So we'll use this as our baseline. We'll move, up and down in age as we further experiment.
So now we have the coffee that was roasted yesterday.
Seems like to me it extracted a little bit faster than the previous one.
Stopped that shot at about 30 seconds, and it was definitely starting to really bubble outwards. I don't know if you saw that just within the crema as it was extracting, but it definitely was a lot more bubbly.
That's typically a sign of very fresh coffee. You do get the little bubbles in your crema. That's a sign that your coffee is super fresh. Let's give it a try. When I drink coffee this fresh, the word that comes to mind is dull. It hasn't, blossomed yet.
This one's got more of a prickly sensation just on the tip of my tongue there. I'll normally describe it as being kind of like harsh and sharp. Like it just hasn't had the opportunity to settle itself in.
The sweetness that we tasted in the baseline coffee, I think it's not there. Actually, I think it's quite the opposite. I'm getting, especially towards the back of my palate, notes of bitterness. So next up, we have the 1 week old coffee. We'll begin extracting that one. And I've been noting how long it takes for the first drop. Coffees we've had so far have been pretty close, around 6 or 7 seconds. So it's not, that hasn't affected it. But this one I see extracting, I think, a little bit faster than previously. 37 grams at, I think that was 26 seconds. It's opening up. That's the best way that I can describe it. I taste a lot more sweetness than I did on the coffee that's directly off roast, but still not quite as nice as a 2 week coffee.
A little bit of fine tuning just with the grinder there, and you could definitely get a pretty spectacular espresso with that.
That's true as well, because of course we're using the same grind setting, because to dial each one of these in would take a lot of time, and I think would also affect our kind of method.
Mm-hmm. I'm already starting to feel a bit
jittery. So our next coffee is 4 weeks off roast. So that extraction was about what, 27, 28 seconds?
28 seconds.
28 seconds, okay, let's give that a try. Crema's still looking very nice. Maybe I might be mistaken, but I thought during the extraction the crema might have been a little bit weaker.
It definitely started to run a little faster. There's definitely less crema though on top of the coffee as well.
To me, the taste is still quite lovely.
Yeah, it's lovely. I think that it may have lost maybe a touch of the body there. Like it just feels like it definitely extracted a lot faster in comparison to even our baseline there.
But I also think that that can be made up a little bit with adjustments to the grind. If we went just a little bit finer on the grind and had the extraction maybe a couple of seconds longer, I think we could have made up. But this, for me, is the second best after the baseline. It's better than the fresh coffee or the 1 week old.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there.
So this is now the 5th coffee that we're going to do, and this is 2 months off roast. As coffee ages, the first drops in espresso are a black color, as opposed to like that orange brown crema. We can see the extraction is already considerably thinner. I'm going to stop right there. It was 27 seconds, and I'm just over about 37.8 grams. I also see a significant difference in the crema. Gone is the tiger striping, any sort of kind of like variation in color. I just have a straight kind of a brownish crema.
We've also got, even less of a layer of that crema as well. And it's definitely just more the espresso body towards the bottom there.
Aroma-wise, I'm still getting a nice nose on it. So it still has some life in it.
It's still definitely palatable. There's definitely a bit more of a decrease in the aroma there, but I think I can comfortably say that this is probably about the cusp, maybe an extra week after that. But going beyond that, well, we're going to see.
Yeah, I tend to agree. One thing that I noticed on this coffee and also the 1 month is a reduction in body. There's actually a starking reduction in body. The coffee's getting thinner and thinner on the palate. Flavor is still there. I still taste some sweetness, but I don't have that kind of heavy mouthfeel that I'm used to with this particular espresso. You still have that juiciness.
Yeah, like I'm getting a bit of a like definitely a citrusy, more lemony undertone there.
Yeah.
But that would be, solved with the grinder. So at this point now we have our 3-month-old coffee.
You can see the extraction's significantly faster than before. That extraction only took 18 seconds, and we have about 39 grams. Again, you still see a little bit of what sometimes people call that Guinness effect, with the crema kind of coming to the top. Crema's lighter in color, I think, as well. It keeps getting lighter.
Yeah, it's becoming a lot more monotone in its coloring on top.
Aroma is weakening, but it's still there. I still have a pleasant smell on the coffee. Let's give it a taste. For me, right now, it's basically just coffee flavor. A lot of the nuance and the flavor is gone. It's getting a little bitter for me as well.
Yeah, I still have the lingering sensation. This one's, though, not as enjoyable as maybe some of the other ones where you actually tasted something.
I think at this point, for 3 months off roast, we can safely say, probably even at 2 months, that it's really at beyond what we would call an optimal experience for specialty coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're really getting down to the dregs. This coffee here is 6 months off of roast. I'm not expecting a lot, but let's see what we get. So you can see the coffee, the first drops were almost completely black. That's a surefire sign that your coffee is getting older. When the first drops are black, you can see it's gushing out. That's because the coffee is very dry after all this time. So paradoxically, I still got a 22-second extraction that's 36.1 grams. Again, the crema keeps getting lighter and weaker as the coffee gets older. Here, it's almost, it's blonde. This coffee is definitely under-extracted. Let's give it a try. Like we expected, it's more of the same, I think, from after the 3 months.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like essence of coffee.
To me, the flavor is getting more bitter. Mm-hmm. While we've been tasting these coffees, one thing kind of struck me is that it's not entirely fair to some of the older coffees because we were using settings that were dialed in for a coffee that's 2 weeks after roast, so the optimal kind of time. So what we've done here is we've taken the 1-year-old coffee that was roasted a year and a day ago, and we tried really hard to get it dialed in so we get about a 30-second extraction. And I've also raised the temperature on this machine to 95 degrees. I raised it by 5 degrees Celsius. And the reason for that is I find that if your coffee is getting a little bit older, a little bit stale, you can get a little bit more out of it with a hotter temperature. So we're going to extract this and give you our thoughts. You can see in comparison to the previous extraction that it is slower. We were able to slow down the extraction. It does thin out still quite fast. There's nothing we were able to do to improve that. Visually, this shot actually doesn't look that horrible. I'm going to stop it right there. That's 37 grams now at exactly 30 seconds. Visually, I want to point out the crema is darker, so we have a little bit more brown in the crema. I don't have any of that striping that we saw earlier on the fresher coffees.
Like as a barista, it looks pretty decent aesthetically there. It's just missing, obviously, the tiger striping. One
more thing I'll add is that the crema is collapsing much faster than I think would happen on a fresher coffee. And that's because, again, the coffee is drier. What happens with oxidization is basically the coffee dries out.
It's just better.
It's better than the previous extraction. It's still awful.
Yeah.
Because of the higher temperature, to me it's extraordinarily bitter. So we were able to get an aesthetically, decent looking shot, which can be deceiving because the taste leaves a lot to be desired. Oh yeah, go back to 90. I have one more surprise for you, Elise.
Okay.
I have this coffee here of indeterminate age. And if you've ever been to our showroom, there's this glass that says, kind of jokingly, in case of emergency, break glass. And we've had this bag there of coffee. And you can see it's actually our old packaging. So at minimum, it's 2.5 years old because we changed to escarpment coffee about early 2020. But I actually believe that this is closer to 6 or 7 years old. When we move to our current location. So for fun, let's try this ancient coffee and see what that tastes like. It's so dry though. Let's try it. Oh yeah, you can see the extraction's quite fast. I had to stop it there. That's 9 seconds. Actually, I couldn't even stop it in time. That's 42. grams of coffee. We can see there's very little crema. There is a little bit of yellow on top there. I'm very curious to try this though. Cheers.
Cheers.
The smell, the smell really is quite bizarre actually. It's not what I expected at all. It's changed, like an old peanut smell to me. Really bizarre. Oh dear. Oh, that's vile. that could be the worst coffee I've ever. I'm sorry. It really is very bad.
Center of the tongue, just bitter and not in a great way.
The taste is just atrocious. Well, that was interesting. We had 10 shots of espresso. The last one can hardly, I think, be called coffee.
Dirty dishwater.
Yeah, it was very, very bad. But what can we conclude from this?
So I think what we can safely conclude from this is going a bit too fresh just hasn't given it its time to kind of settle in, become what we know as espresso. You're kind of 1 week old point to about the 3-month point there. You can definitely still get something within that, but the difference between your 2 and your 3 month, it is quite vast. When you get to your 6 month, 1 year point, anything that would have been really pleasant about that coffee, it's just long gone.
Yeah, all the best is gone. I found my experience to be exactly the same. At around 3 months, it's already getting really towards the end. That's probably what we would recommend at IDrinkCoffee to be the maximum. We're allowed to put very long expiry dates on coffee. Although at IDrinkCoffee at Escarpment Coffee Roasters, we don't put an expiry date on coffee. We put the day the coffee was roasted. And again, we do recommend keeping it within those 3 months. Really, we're allowed to put 18-month expiry dates. And from what we've tasted here, even at 4 or 5 months or 6 months for sure, that optimal experience is gone.
So when you're looking to purchase your coffee, make sure that you're looking for a roasted on date as opposed to a Best By date. That way you can ensure that you are getting fresher coffee.
And generally, you'll only find that information from specialty coffee roasters, which you can find lots of all around the world, but certainly in Canada, the United States. Those roasters should be putting the dates that the coffee was roasted on, as opposed to a best before date, which you'll see on mass market coffees, which again, for optimal experience, in our opinion, you should avoid. In this video, we try to answer one of the most frequently asked questions when it comes to espresso extraction and how age of coffee relates to crema. And I think, and I hope that we've showed that the coffee is, of course, probably the most important part of espresso extraction. I mean, machines, grinders, of course, that's all very important, but it's the coffee that we're actually consuming. If you have any questions about espresso extraction, or if you need help dialing in your espresso, please feel free to reach out to us at idrinkcoffee.com. We're always here to help. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this about coffee, about espresso machines, coffee grinders, everything to do with coffee. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
It's very bad.
Sour.
Yeah, that's very sour. No más.
No bueno.
All right.
It's not that bad. You didn't drink it. No, I did.
It's pretty bad.
It's not that bad though. I actually thought it was gonna be way worse.
Beautiful.
Oh no.
It seems like it's had a parabolic effect. We got to the peak, got all the way down, but now we're back up even higher.